Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about converting fractions and decimals. So there's two different things we're going to do today. We're going to take a decimal and we're going to convert it to a fraction. And then the other thing is we're going to take a fraction and convert it to a decimal. There are a couple of steps for each process, but I think once you do a couple, you'll get the hang of it. So we're first going to take decimals and convert them to fractions. The first step is to determine the place value of the last number in the decimal. This becomes your denominator. Step 2, make the decimal number the numerator and reduce. It helps when you read your decimals out loud as you write them. For example, I'm starting with this decimal, and to read this decimal correctly, I would read it as 625 thousandths, because this 5 is in the thousandths place. So 625 thousandths. So the 1,000 will be my denominator. And then my number, 625, is my numerator. I hope I said that right. 1,000 is my denominator, 625 my numerator. Then the last step is to reduce. So I have to think to myself, what number goes into both 625 and 1,000? Those are very large numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and use the number 25. I know 25 will go into both. So 625 divided by 25 is 25. 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. Now I've got 25 over 40, and I know 5 goes into both of these numbers. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 5/8 is equivalent to 625 thousandths. This is the fraction form of this decimal. Now, if I give you a fraction and I want you to turn it into a decimal, this is what you'll do. You basically divide the numerator by the denominator. So a tip for this one, again, is to read your fraction out loud as you set up your long division problem. So to read this fraction, I would read it out loud as 5 divided by 8. I know a lot of people would say 5/8, but that doesn't really help us in this case. In converting, it doesn't help us. Think of it as a division problem. 5 divided by 8. The 5 goes on the inside of our long division bar, and the 8 goes on the outside of our long division bar. So the divided by process, or the divided by phrase, represents long division. 5 divided by 8. So as I'm going through this process, I really do talk to myself out loud, or in my head, I really do talk to myself, and I say, okay, does 8 go into 5? No, it doesn't. So I had to add a decimal, and anytime you have a decimal underneath the long division bar, you bring it up. And then I added a 0. And then I asked myself, does 8 go into 50? Yes, it does. It goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. I use subtraction, and I'm left with 2. So I add another 0, and I bring it straight down. Does 8 go into 20? Yes, it does. How many times? It goes in twice. 2 times 8 is 16. I subtract. I get 4. Add another 0. Bring it down. Does 8 go into 40? Yes, it does. It goes in 5 times exactly. So 5/8 rewritten as a decimal is 0.625. So as you can see, this process might take a little bit longer because we have to add zeros until we get to the end of our decimal, but this is how you change fractions to decimals. If you ever have a mixed number, it is important to change it to an improper fraction first. So Vic number 1, change all mixed numbers to improper fractions prior to dividing. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of these. So here we go. Convert these decimals to fractions. So remember, we had to say this out loud, and that was our big tip here. So this is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. So this is called 12 thousandths. Okay, 12 over 1,000. Now I have to reduce. I know that 2 will go into both the numerator and the denominator. Numerator and denominator. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. And then as you take another look at this reduced fraction, you will notice that they're both even numbers, so 2 can also go into both of these numbers. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 500 divided by 2 is 250. 3 over 250 is my final answer. The next one, 1 and 45 hundredths. Well, I have a whole number, so I know that that's going to be my whole number in my answer, 1. Now I have to create a fraction for this part, 45 hundredths. And once I finish, I'm going to put my fraction part next to my whole number, and I'm going to make a mixed number as my answer. So I can reduce 45 over 100. 5 goes into both of these. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 50. And then you have to think to yourself, sorry, 5 divided by 5 is not 50. It's 20. 5 divided by 100 divided by 5, yes, is 20. So 9/20. The only thing that goes into 9 is 3. 3 cannot go into 20. So I'm done. All right, next problem. Convert these fractions to decimals. So think about how we do that. We're going to read this out loud, and we're going to have to do long division. 3/8. That is 3 divided by 8. So I ask myself, does 8 go into 3? No. I have to add a decimal, bring it up, add a 0. So does 8 go into 30? Yes. It will go in 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. And subtract, and you'll get 6. Add another 0, bring it down. Does 8 go into 60? Yes, it does. It will go in 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. So you subtract and you get 4. Add one more 0, bring it down. 8 will go into 40 5 times exactly. So 3/8 is equivalent to 0.375. And then we have 1 and 5/6. Well, you know that you're going to have 1 point something because that's my whole number. It goes to the left of the decimal. Now I have to divide 5/6. So 5 divided by 6. Can 5 go into 6? No, it cannot. So I have to add a decimal, bring it up, and then add a 0. 5 goes into 6. 6 goes into 50. It will go in 9 times. 6, no, it won't. It'll go in 8 times only. Getting ahead of myself. 8 times only. 8 times 6 is 48. It's not a nice looking thing. There we go. 8. Subtract. I'm left with 2. 6 goes into 23 times. 3 times 6 is 18. When I subtract, I get 2. Uh-oh. I see a reoccurring pattern. I have a 20 there, and I had to subtract, and then I get a 20 again. I bet you if I did this again, I would get 20 again as a remainder. So I'm seeing a pattern. I'm going to end up having a repeating decimal with my 3 only. So when I put how I express this, I'll put a bar over the 3 and the 3 only because the 3 repeats. So this is my decimal part of my answer. Remember, I had a whole number part of my answer. So there we go. 1.83 with the repeating bar over the 3. That means that if I wrote this out, it would be 1.8333333 forever. So to shorten it, I write 1.83 with a repeating bar over the 3. Hope that made sense. So if I give you some problems to practice, hopefully you'll have no issues with these. Convert these to fractions in their simplest form and convert these fractions over to decimals. Bring your answers to school tomorrow. Hopefully you'll get them all right. We'll have no issues and we can keep practicing and doing our best with fractions and decimals.